to the Milton Community Hall. And tonight, Michel is going to tell us some songs and stories about French in Canada. We've been really fortunate here in Milton, both with the Hall and the Municipality, in that we tend to get funding from the federal government through the New Horizons for Seniors program. So 2 years ago, we got one that's called A Year in France. So we spent some time, and it got extended for a year for, I'm not sure why. So we did French classes, and we've done some French cooking, and we have another cooking class coming up November the 3rd on crepes and bechamel sauce. And so tonight, Michel is going to tell us some songs and tell us some stories. And also just another shameless plug for something else. The Young at Heart Musical Theater Program got another New Horizons for Seniors grant, and they're having storytelling sessions and workshops. And so they're having one here at the Hall next Saturday afternoon from 2 until 3. And they're wanting to develop storytelling in people. So if anyone's interested, you can register with me. And so that's next Saturday. But until then, enjoy the show.
Merci beaucoup, thank you. Well, I'm going to thank Sherry to begin it because this was her idea. Like you said, we did an event here. Yes?
Can we dim the lights a little bit?
Oh, can we dim the lights, she says. Get on it, Sherry.
As you were saying.
Whoa. Those are great. No, we did an event a little while ago here. Showbiz Film Movie sort of did, I guess it wasn't really an opening, but a welcoming screening of the movie. And then Sherry did mention that we want to do, she said, we want to do an evening of Acadian music. Well, I did tell her I'm not Acadian, but I am French speaking, and I have traveled across this country for a good many years, and that's basically what I'd like to sort of maybe sort of share with you is a little bit of the music that's accompanied me on this journey. Because when I did start getting interested in music in a sort of, I would say, semi-serious way, I was a teenager, and of course French music wasn't very appealing to me. I was into the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and so that's how I got the taste for music. But I do remember as a child, and of course I have a couple of my sisters here, they're fact checkers, so anything I say, and I'll be talking about Saskatchewan later, because some people from Saskatchewan here, so I've got to mind my P's and Q's here. But yeah, I do remember that my father was a singer, and of course that's where I started singing, is in church, and we would sing for the Christmas services and that type of thing. And there's a song that I remember him singing. It was a wee little guy, because it was one of the only bilingual songs that I knew. And it's called I Went to the Market, and you probably have heard it. Because it talks about the language barrier, I guess. And I grew up in Eastern Ontario. I grew up right on the border. You could practically throw a stone across to Quebec. So we would, of course, go over there on our bikes. And so growing up on the border, we're actually closer to Montreal, in between Montreal and Ottawa, but we sort of tended to, pull for the Canadians and listen to Montreal radio stations. So like we were sort of caught in between two worlds, really, growing up in little French villages, but in a very Scottish area, Glengarry County, with lots of Scottish Presbyterians around, which I know there are a few of in this area here. And so that's what I bathed in. And as a kid, of course, this bilingualism thing was always there, And so this is one of the songs that talks about it. It's about an apple seller in the market sees this beautiful girl coming up, and he wants to sell her some apples. But of course, they have the language barrier. She speaks English, and he doesn't. So, but she says, she finally does a little bit of a deal with him, and she says, I'll buy some apples, and my dad will pay for them. But in the end, the old man doesn't pay for it, because apparently the guy's a lawyer. He says that's what happens when you deal with lawyers. So it's a little bit of social comment there. But I remember my dad singing the song. I went to the market, Municipality sous mon bras. I went to the market, Municipality sous mon bras. I got the first all I get was the fate de l'avocat. I love you, vous ne m'entendez guère, I love you, vous ne m'entendez pas. So this city telling her, I love you, but you really can't hear a word I'm saying, you can't understand. It's like I'm speaking Chinese to you. And she says, I love you, vous ne m'entendez guère, I love you, vous ne m'entendez pas. Well, the first girl I met was the fille de Navajo. The first girl I met was the fille de Navajo. She said, what have you got dans ce beau petit panier-là? I love you, vous ne m'entendez guère, I love you, vous ne m'entendez pas. Well, I got some apples, n'en achetez-vous pas? I got some apples, n'en achetez-vous pas? Yes, I'll take 2 dozen, mes bonhommes, paye ça. I love you, vous ne m'entendez guère, I love you, vous ne m'entendez pas. Well, I'll take 2 dozen, mes bonhommes, paye ça. I'll take 2 dozen, mes bonhommes, paye ça. Well, I gave her 2 dozen, mes bonhommes, paye pas. Oh, I love you, vous ne m'entendez guère, I love you, vous ne m'entendez pas. Well, I gave her 2 dozen, mais bonne amie payait pas. I gave her 2 dozen, mais bonne amie payait pas. Such is the business avec la fille de Nabucco. Oh, I love you, vous ne m'entendez guère, I love you, vous ne m'entendez pas. I love you, vous ne m'entendez guère, I love you, vous ne m'entendez pas. I love you, vous ne m'entendez guère, I love you, vous ne m'entendez pas du tout. Warm up a little bit. So, yeah, so the language barrier obviously was a very part of my upbringing. But as I said, my first experience was singing in church. My father had a very strong voice, had a baritone voice, and my brother and I would go singing before our voices changed, of course. So we'd have to sing with the altos with the ladies till, we were old enough to graduate to the men's section. But it was really interesting because you got to learn different parts, and that's where I think I developed a bit of an ear for harmony. But another thing that I do remember from that period was going to see a show with my dad, and I must have been 6 or 7. It was very vague, and there was regularly performances in the little village in Quebec, in Saint-Justin, Newton, just down the road. And one night they had an icon there. His name was Félix Leclerc. And he lived in Rigaud, which was about 20 miles away, before he moved to L'Île d'Orléans years later. And of course I was a wee little guy. I just remember vaguely people, and because my father wanted me to experience that, but I don't remember much about the performance, but I thought I'd do a song by him here. Félix Leclerc was he was the first Québécois singer which really made it big in France, with his own music, his own songs. They called him Le Canadien. This is back before being a Québécois, being Canadien was all the same thing. But he went over there and would put his foot on a stool and play his guitar and just sing by himself. And that was, this was about the early 50s. So he was somebody who really opened the door to many of the other singers that came along after Jean-Pierre Ferland, Gilles Vigneault, people like that. But Félix Leclerc. And I'd like to do a little bit of a song here called Moi mes souliers, and it talks about, it's basically me and my shoes, where they've taken me across the world. And that was basically a song that he wrote, making an allegory about the fact that these shoes are basically an allegory for our life, and what we do with it. Au paradis, paraît-il, mes amis, c'est pas la place pour les souliers vernis. Dépêchez-vous de salir vos souliers, si vous voulez pardonner. Moi, les souliers ont beaucoup voyagé, ils m'ont porté de l'école à la guerre. J'ai traversé sur mes souliers ferrés le monde et sa misère. S'ils ont marché pour traîner le débouché, s'ils ont traîné de village en village, suis pas rendu plus loin qu'à mon lever, mais devenu plus sage. dans les cités, souliers de gueux et souliers de reine. Un jour cesseront d'user nos souliers, peut-être cette semaine. Yes, you never know, it could be the very last time you walk with these shoes. As you're getting near the end, of course, in the last word, you would modulate. As you're getting higher, closer to heaven, right? Au paradis, paraît-il, mes amis, c'est pas la place pour les souliers vernis. Dépêchez-vous de salir vos souliers, si vous voulez pardonner, si vous voulez pardonner. Sherry was wondering if you could bring me a glass of water.
I was
I
wondering.
poured one out and I left it there in the back. Yeah, so that was more in my dad's vocal range. He had a real low voice. But of course, when I was 12 or 13, and Felix like that wasn't on my mind. Like I said, I did get into rock and roll, and then played some cover bands for a while. And of course, French music was very far from my life. We did do the occasional song that I guess some rock band would record in French. But I think what really did it is that back then I was only playing electric guitar, and at a certain point, one of the bands I was with broke up, and I got a real job, and I decided to just pick up the acoustic guitar and fool around with it rather than just perform. And when I started getting playing acoustic guitar, then I started thinking of all these old songs that I'd heard as a kid, these folk songs that my dad had sung, and then a little light went on. I said, well, why couldn't we do these old songs and incorporate some electric guitar riffs and keyboards and the stuff I was into at that time? And that's how my band Garoluga started. Basically, we just decided to mesh the folk music together with rock music and tried it. And as a matter of fact, we got going on the island here because in the 70s I lived here for a few years. And the song that really kicked it off for the band is the song I'm going to play for you. It's called Dis-moi Charles. And this song I picked up, I could say a few years before, when I had taken a hiatus from the band. And I was in Quebec, and this song is a call and response song, une chanson à répondre. So basically, the singer sings it, but everybody, repeats and responds, because otherwise the song doesn't really have a whole lot of energy. So these songs were very much party songs and communal songs. And so everyone would have their own song. So this one was Michel Lalonde's song. So il chantait la chanson de Michel, and so he would come up and sing his song. So everybody had their own special song that they would memorize and learn. So that's how the parties would get together. And this one just really, for some reason, I just liked the melody, and I just picked it up and I learned it. And then it became recorded with the band. That was the first song we ever recorded with my band, Yabulu, which of course, like I said, got going here on the island in the 70s. So the sinuous road of music took me all the way. Lived here at Brackley Beach, by the way, not too far away. You never know where things will lead you. So this is a song called Dis-moi Charles, Dis-moi Charlie, and the English pronunciation is obviously for a reason. I mean, it's a lot of these songs. There's a lot of genres, and this is one genre that we find in a lot of these French traditional songs, and it's about a woman complaining about being married to somebody who's either mean or too old or too ugly or just downright pernickety, whatever. There's all these complaints about these girls that, and I guess it's probably a good reason for it. But anyhow, so it made for good music, but maybe not the best of stories if you sort of went to really what happened behind. But in this one, she winds up marrying this guy, and he has her get up really early in the morning to go out and work in the shop, and she doesn't like it at all because she says, why did I do this? And she keeps saying, Dis-moi Charles, c'est une bad luck. So I guess you can understand what she's saying there. C'est une bad luck, which means she's kind of saying she got those short end of the stick. So, no pun intended here. But so she keeps sort of hearing the voice and calling at night, talking to her lover, Dis-moi Charles. And so I just thought it was a cool little song, and it's got a nice little lilt to it. It goes like this. Mon père est mort, marié avec un marchand de velours. Les brebis soient dans le steamer jour. Dis-moi Charles, c'est une belle. Dis-moi Charles, je suis belle lucky. Des brebis soient dans le steamer jouer un billet-tour. Il est venu frapper ma porte aux 3 heures avant le jour. Dis-moi Charles, c'est une belle. Dis-moi Charles, je suis belle lucky. He comes knocking at the door all hours in the morning. Il est venu frapper ma porte aux 3 heures avant le jour. Lève-toi, jeune marié, oh lève-toi, car il joue. Dis-moi Charles, c'est une belle. Dis-moi Charles, je suis belle lucky. Lève-toi, jeune marié, oh lève-toi, car il joue. Il y a des gens dans le boutique qui marchandent sur le dos. Dis-moi Charles, c'est une belle. Dis-moi Charles, je suis belle lucky. Il y a des gens dans la boutique qui marchandent sur le velours. Il y a en de la boutique aussi des marchands de velours. Dis-moi Charles, c'est une belle. Dis-moi Charles, je suis belle lucky. Qu'il y a en de la boutique aussi des marchands de velours. Il y a des chevaux chez mon père qui sont bien nus. Soyez comme moi. Dis-moi Charles, c'est une belle. Dis-moi Charles, je suis belle lucky. Ils ont du foin et de la bonne ou des trilles soir le matin. Moi qui suis jeune marié, ils m'en donnent pas tous les matins. Dis-moi Charles, c'est une belle. Dis-moi Charlie, je suis belle lucky. Dis-moi Charles, c'est une belle. Dis-moi Charlie, je suis belle lucky. So I guess you can feel the angst blues in her voice. These songs these participatory songs are really good. They somehow, for some reason, there's a sort of magical thing about them that once the song starts, you don't want it to end. And I'm going to do one of these songs for you that I learned out of a book, basically. But it was a song was collected by the Père Chiasson, Père Marcel Chiasson, who for years taught in Moncton, and all of his work is at the archives at the University of Moncton. He collected hundreds and hundreds of songs, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia mostly, and a great source of inspiration for me. And I learned the song, and it's called Wing Trala. Wing Trala is basically just an onomatopoeia. It's sort of a sound. I guess it's supposed to imitate the sound of a chorus, a choir, or birds, or something. Just it's a sort of a mantra type of thing. And then the verses are told in the story, and this Wing Trala sort of punctuates it. And there was a lot of songs like that. A lot of these sailor songs, for example, there would be a story told, but the real thing was the chorus, which got you to pull on the sail or to do the work, pull up the anchor. So this song was one of these songs. And years ago, I was at a festival in Sudbury, a festival called the Northern Lights Festival. I don't know if anybody's ever had the chance to be up there or experience a beautiful festival. And anyways, and everybody, performers get put up at the university in the residences, and of course, after hours, there's all sorts of singing and partying that goes on all night. Well, one night, this is just first few years the band got together, we were performing there, and people would go up in the different stairwells between the different stories of the residence, and so people start singing the stairwell. And if you've ever heard the echo of the stairwells, if you went to a parkade or something, you get this wonderful echo. So all of a sudden there's like 20, 30, 40 people, and people can't get through because of course they're going up, but they get blocked because people are singing, so they start singing. People coming down start singing. So we've got 3 floors of people singing. You can't see anybody, but you can hear them. So people are singing a song, and that's a song, and finishes, of course, well, you got 40 singers. Somebody's going to start another song. So this went on for about, I would say, a good hour, hour and a half, and so people, it was a real happening. So the festival happened, and there was a number of people there, and Stan Rogers was there that night, and Stan was singing along, and he went back to his room, and this story was told to me years later. I didn't know that very day, but Grid Laskin was a friend of mine who was involved in the Canadian folk music scene, and told me this story later. That night, that after he went back to his room, Stan says, I gotta write a song like that. He says, I gotta write a song that everybody just jumps in and sing, and he says, you know. So he wrote a song and he played it the next day at the workshop at the festival. And the song he wrote was Bears Privateers. So that was and you know, I think, we were told we'd sail for American gold, fire no shots, shed no tears. Now I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Bears Privateers. So you can just hear Stan with his big voice behind it. So apparently that night was what inspired me to write the song. I said, wow, that's quite something that I was there and may have contributed somehow. So here's the song. It's called Wing Ta-Da. And the story, it's a pretty simple story. The story talks about a guy who's very distraught because he's in love with this woman and he goes to see her. And if you follow the words, you know, he comes in and he says, may I sit down? And the guy says, yeah, sit down. He says, I want to talk to you. I'm in love with your daughter. And he says, what do you do for a living? And he says, I'm a tailor. And he says, I'm a shoemaker. So you'll never get my daughter because a shoemaker. With his needles, you know. And so it's a sort of, in a way, it's sort of a nonsense song, but at the same time, it's one of these complaints where everybody sings along. But that's the story behind the song, and this is how it goes. So I don't need my guitar. Dans mon chemin, je rencontre un gentil cavalier, m'a parlé d'amourette, je lui ai dit d'entrer. Wing tra-la, li tra-la-la, li tra-la-la, de la idée. That's the chorus. And that's the part that you can sing along. We can barely even sing. So there's lots of verses. Let's just read that. Il m'a parlé d'amourette. Monsieur, venez rentrer. Ok, je vais recommencer. Monsieur, prenez une chaise. Monsieur, venez causer. Je ne veux pas de chaise. Je veux me marier. Wing, tra-la, de tra-la-la, de tra-la-la, de la idée. Let's try it together. Wing, tra-la, de tra-la-la, de tra-la-la, de la idée. Je ne veux pas de chaise, je veux me marier avec la plus belle fille qui soit dans le quartier. Wing, tra-la, de tra-la-la, de tra-la-la, de la idée. Avec la plus belle fille qui soit dans le quartier, le père qui aux écoute se mise à tempêter. Wing, tra-la, de tra-la-la, de tra-la-la, de la idée. Le père qui aux écoute se mise à tempêter. Je ne donne pas ma fille à un vil couturier. Wing, tra-la, de tra-la-la, de tra-la-la, de la idée. Non, je ne donne pas ma fille à un vil couturier, car avec ses aiguilles, il pourrait la piquer. Wing, tra-la, de tra-la-la, de tra-la-la, de la idée. Car avec ses aiguilles, il pourrait la piquer. Le couturier s'en retourne, injuriant son métier. Wing, tra-la, de tra-la-la, de tra-la-la, de la idée. Le couturier s'en retourne, injuriant son métier. Sinon de mes aiguilles, je serai marié. Wing, tra-la-la, de tra-la-la, de tra-la-la, de la idée. Non, sinon de mes aiguilles, je serai marié avec la plus belle fille qui soit dans le quartier. Oui, tralala, de tralala, de tralala, de la oui, tralala, de tralala, de tralala, de la Very good. So you can see how that sort of will just get memorizing after a while. You imagine you get 40, 50 people singing in harmony. It's just hard to get away. So now you know a little bit of a tidbit about Paris privateers. Anyways, yeah, because anyways, too bad we did lose Stan so young, but it left us a lot of great music. I'm going to do another a cappella song because I'm talking about Acadian music, which was something that I think for me was, even though like I sort of say in the beginning, I'm talking to Sherry that I'm not Acadian, I did buy a house here. There's always something that's always pulled me about this music, whether it's I think maybe some of the melancholy with the sea and the fishing and the different things that people go through living through the ocean, or there's something about it that has survived through the music. It's very compelling for me anyways. And a few years ago when I did travel to Europe, there's a lot of interesting vocal music there too. And I was at a festival in Lorient in Brittany, and that is an event. We'll have to go back one day because it is called the Inter-Celtic Festival. So basically, it's all Celtic performance, Scottish, Irish, Breton, and they get together and there's a lot of wild partying. If you've never ever seen a bunch of guys jamming with bagpipes on the street corner at 3 in the morning, I'll tell you, it's a thing to behold. But and they do these dances that they do locking arms and dance in the street. I don't know if you've ever seen that. They all dance together in a long, and they can be like 200 or 300 people, and they go up and down. And they dance to a very definite tunes that are sort of made rhythmically to fit with the steps. And so this song I'm going to sing is basically a dance tune. It's called Interdro, and Interdro really means about face or turn around. But it's a type of dance that's danced as I was in our dance school. I'm going to show you a little bit. When they sort of like say lock arms and they sort of move like this together and move together and down. And there's a lilt to it that I'm never able to really get, but they seem to all be in step. But anyways, but the stories to the song are often have nothing to do with the melodies. And this story here is one that you find in a lot of folk songs. And this is another thing about folk music, is that they mix and match. They'll take a melody that's interesting or that's nice, and they'll put a story to it, and they'll take the same story and put on another melody. And so you say, oh, I know that song, but that's not the way my dad used to sing it, or my uncle sang it. That's the folk process. Well, anyways, so this song is about a famous story about the woman, the maiden who loses her ring as she's washing her clothes, and she loses her ring in the sea, in the ocean. And of course, along comes a cavalier, a gentleman who offers to dive and find her ring. And of course, he usually finds it and then he drowns. And that's the way it goes. So it's very, these are very old legends, of course, which go back to the 4th and 5th century very often. So they're just, the stories are maintained, and the stories are sort of the words that make the melody work. And so this song here is called Barbeau Clair de Lune. That's because the first line starts with that, but it's basically the story of the girl who loses her ring. And the melody, and you see, sort of, it's got a lot of repetition. And the chorus says "Joli cœur de rosier," which means heart of rose, or rose-colored heart, or in other words, he's talking about obviously the girl he's in love with, which would be obviously the girl who lost her ring. But like I said, the whole thing is the rhythm of the melody, and it sort of gets you dancing. Trying to get the right cue. Par au clair de lune, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de m'en alla promener au joli cœur de la rive, m'en alla promener, joli cœur de rosier. Dans mon chemin raconte ma joli cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. Dans mon chemin raconte ma joli cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. Une fille qui pleurait au guénon là de la rive, une fille qui pleurait, joli cœur de rosier. Qu'avez-vous donc la belle, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. Qu'avez-vous donc la belle, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. Qu'avez-vous autant pleuré au guénon là de la rive, qu'avez-vous autant pleuré, joli cœur de rosier. Je pleure mon âne d'or, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. Je pleure mon âne d'or, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. Dans la mer est tombée, au guénon là de la rive, dans la mer est tombée, joli cœur de rosier. Ne pleurez pas la belle, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. Ne pleurez pas la belle, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. Je vous le rendrai au guénon là de la rive, je vous le rendrai, joli cœur de rosier. De la première plonge, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. De la première plonge, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. Galant allié trouvé, au guénon là de la rive, galant allié trouvé, joli cœur de rosier. De la seconde plonge, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. De la seconde plonge, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. La noire résonnée, au guénon là de la rive, la noire résonnée, joli cœur de rosier. De la troisième plonge, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. De la troisième plonge, ma jolie cœur de rose, joli cœur de rosier. Le galant s'est noyé, au guénon là de la rive, le galant s'est noyé, joli cœur de rosier. Well, I'm not doing a little acapella songs. 30-some years ago, I went to Saskatchewan for a year, and I still have I have a daughter there, a granddaughter, another one coming, and visitors from Saskatchewan. So, anyways, a year turned into many more. But I met some people there that I still do music with, good friends of mine. You probably know that band, La Raquette Claquette. We have a following in Saskatchewan. Yeah, so this was supposed to be a one-night stand. We got together to do a show one night, and we stayed together. As a matter of fact, my sister Claude, you were there. She was there that first night. She was an original member of La Raquette Claquette. Hey, yeah. We're discovering things as we go along here. Might have to have you come up and sing a song over. So, anyways, but we did record a bunch of albums. We've done 3 albums so far with that group. We won an Western Canadian Music Award for the Best Francophone Album. We won an East Coast Music Award, also as part of a compilation with a group of people years ago. So it's kind of fun. So we played in Tadoussac about maybe 10 years ago, and we met this guy named Marcel Beneteau, and he's from Southern Ontario. And so I'm going to sing a song from that area. There's a region south of around the Great Lakes near Detroit. Of course, Detroit is Détroit, it's a French name, and that is the oldest settlement, that French settlement, that area, the Riviera Canal, and that area. That is the oldest settlement, except for Quebec City. Quebec City is older, but there's been people there longer than in Montreal. So the 1600s there were people living there, and of course they kept their music and their songs alive. And so the songs and the different types of music that you find there are very different from other places. So this is a song I learned from Marcel, who picked it up there. And it's another one of these songs about, marriage seems to have sort of spurred, inspired a lot of these funny songs. And this is about a song about a woman who marries a husband, and he's such a little guy that she loses him in her bed. She can't find him. So of course, being very resourceful, she decides that she's going to go look for him. So she lights a candle. She goes under the bed covers, and of course, the first thing you know, well, that thing catches fire. Well, the bed's on fire. She's trying to put it out. Finally, she takes her husband out, and he's just roasted like that. You know, it looks like a I don't know, wiener or something. So she decides she's gonna put him in a little dish someplace, and of course the cat comes along and grabs it. So you know, it's a nonsense song, of course. It's just the more you can add to the story to make it silly. And it's called Le Petit Mari, so you can talk the little husband. And so I'm going to eventually try to sing along because there's an interesting. The chorus says. Tout travers, tout à l'envers, jamais de plaisir. Of course, jamais de plaisir means never any pleasure, right? Because with a husband that small, she can never get pleasure. So when I sing the chorus, tout travers, tout à l'envers, jamais de plaisir. Can we all try that together? Jamais plaisir. Jamais means never de plaisir. Jamais plaisir. Try together. Jamais plaisir. Tout travers, tout à l'envers, tout à l'envers. Jamais plaisir. There you go. Mon père, il m'a marié, tout de travers, tout à l'envers, avec un mari si petit, tout de travers, tout à l'envers, jamais plaisir. Avec un mari si petit, tout de travers, tout à l'envers, dedans mon lit, je le perdis. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, jamais plaisir. Dedans mon lit, je le perdis. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, je pris une chandelle, je le cherchis. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, jamais plaisir. Je pris une chandelle, je le cherchis. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, le feu à la paillasse a pris. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, jamais plaisir. Le feu à la paillasse a pris. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, mon mari est sorti aussi. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, jamais plaisir. Mon mari est sorti aussi. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, dans un beau plat blanc je l'ai mis. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, jamais plaisir. Dans un beau plat blanc je l'ai mis. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, le chat l'a pris pour une souris. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, jamais plaisir. Le chat l'a pris pour une souris. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, oh si jamais je me remarie. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, jamais plaisir. Si jamais je me remarie, tout de travers, tout à l'envers, j'en prendrai un 6 pieds et demi. She says, if I ever get married again, I'm taking one 6 foot tall. Tout de travers, tout à l'envers, j'aurai du plaisir. So it's commonly called a nonsense song or chanson de menterie, which is another genre where you put as many lies as you put into a song. Well, I'm gonna, since I talked about Saskatchewan, you know, there's a type of music that I discovered in Saskatchewan that's very infectious also. It's Métis music. I don't know if you're familiar with Métis, mostly fiddling, not too much singing, but a lot of really good dancing and fiddling. And years ago, I was working at a festival and I met a fiddler by the name of John Arcan. You people know John Arcan, right? John is a legend. He's a preeminent fiddler, Métis fiddler and composer. He's got the Order of Canada. He's very much a figurehead in the Métis community, and he's one of these people that just prolific writer and writes, you know, beautiful reels, and he's come a long line of traditional Métis fiddlers. His dad and his grandfather were both fiddlers, but John is one of a kind since he just composes, he writes, and he has the habit writing a tune for somebody. He wrote a reel for me, the reel de Michel Lalonde. And so I felt pretty honored, and he said, you know, I wanted you to put some lyrics to that. Okay. So the song later on for a long time, because these fiddle tunes are not easy to write lyrics to, because you know, they tend to move. So anyways, so as a tribute to John, I'm going to read this song. It's called C'est ça qui me fait danser. So I put some lyrics to the song, to this reel, which he wrote for me. And it's basically the story of a house party. The first verse talks about when the moon is high across the river, the Métis show up and they take out the fiddles, they start dancing. And of course in the second verse, Tijan gets there. And Tijan, of course, is John Arcan. But Tijan is also a very famous character in Métis folklore. Tijan is this strong man that can move mountains and that can, you know, fly and can do all sorts of things. And he's the trickster also. So Tijan is very much part of the Métis lore. And of course, at the end of the night, after they've danced all night, they go home. And so I'm not a fiddler. I'll try to play the fiddle tune. This is what happened with the singer who plays the fiddle tune. Le long de la rivière. C'est qui le petit Mitchell qui danse toute la nuit, les pattes en l'air, j'ai fait sauter la petite misère, on a chassé les soirs d'hiver, je comme l'été, j'ai mis mes mocassins, c'est ça qui me fait danser, c'est ça qui commence, on accorde les violons, mais quand Jean arrive, y'a pas de cérémonie, on chante et puis on danse, on claque du talon, c'est qui le petit Mitchell qui danse toute la nuit, les pattes en l'air, j'ai fait sauter la petite misère, on a chassé les soirs d'hiver, je comme l'été, j'ai mis mes mocassins, ça qui me fait danser. Ça commence, on accorde les violons, mais quand j'arrive, y'a pas de cérémonie. On chante et puis on danse, on claque du talon. C'est qui le petit Mitchell qui danse toute la nuit, les pattes en l'air, qui fait sauter la petite misère. On lâche chassé les soirs d'hiver, je comme l'été, j'ai mis mes mocassins. Ça qui me fait danser. Quand le soleil commence à se lever, on réveille les bouteilles, on lève les petits, on sortit de deuil, on commence à sortir, à la santé de deuil, on danse la monte dans l'air, j'ai fait sauter, dans l'air, je comme l'été, les soirs d'hiver, je comme l'été, j'ai mis mes mocassins, c'est ça qui me fait danser. Quand le soleil commence à se lever, on réveille les bouteilles, on réveille les petits, on se dit au revoir et on boit la santé, tous les bons motifs qu'on danse toute la nuit, les battes dans l'air, j'ai fait sauter la petite misère, on l'a chassé les soirs d'hiver, je comme l'été, j'ai mis les mocassins, c'est ça qui me fait danser. John would approve, I don't know. But fiddle tunes is something else to sing. Okay, well, I was wondering if I could, I guess I could do, I was gonna do a little song here this morning, but I'll tell you what, if you guys are into singing along, there's a song here that I've often sung that for some reason, song that we all sort of like sing around the campfire once in a while, and it's called Chant de l'Alouette. And it's a story, it's basically about a little girl going out there and looking for a nest, because she's looking for the alouette, and she actually accidentally steps on the bird, and somebody says, well, you know, that's bad luck. C'est pour y cueillir, oh moi votre chance c'est pour y cueillir, je n'ai pas cueilli, j'ai cherché des nuits, au chant de l'alouette je veille, je dors, j'ai pas cueilli, j'ai cherché des lits. J'ai marché sur l'aile et la nuit rompie. Au chant de l'alouette, je veille, je dors. J'écoute l'alouette et puis je m'endors. Lui marchait sur l'aile et la nuit rompie. Lui marchait sur l'aile et la nuit rompie. Elle me dit, Pucelle, retiens-toi ici. Au chant de l'alouette, je veille et je dors. J'écoute l'alouette et puis je m'endors. Au chant de l'alouette, je veille et je dors. J'écoute l'alouette et puis je m'endors. Au chant de l'alouette, je veille et je dors. J'écoute l'alouette et puis je m'endors. Well, I'm going to do one of my own songs now because I realize that a lot of these traditional songs. This song off of the last album, and it's called Dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as quand tu dis que t'as rien du tout. And mouthful, but maybe you can help me sing on. Dis-moi, can you say that? Dis-moi? Dis-moi, you tell me. Dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as? Qu'est-ce que t'as means, what's wrong? What do you got? And of course, usually they'll say, nothing's wrong. Right? Alors, dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as quand tu dis que t'as rien du tout. So, dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as, that's the part I want you to sing along with me. Comme trois soldats sur une allumette, on n'avait pas grand-chose à faire. On a fait le tour de la planète, ce qu'on a trouvé, c'était l'enfer. On est venu, c'est pas plus de temps, on va commencer tranquillement. Pourquoi partir en peur quand c'est toi-même que t'es peurant? Mais dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as quand tu dis que t'as rien du tout. T'as pas besoin d'amour, que t'es belle dans ton igloo. Dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as. Tout ce que t'as c'est un monde de fou. Yeah, on t'a piqué pis t'appelle. On n'est pas sorti du trou. That's it. J'ai fait du soldat, des ablutions pis des serments plein les bras. Plus je voyais clair, plus je voyais bien que dans le fond je voyais pas. J'ai pris mes clés, assez, je m'en retrouvais le bonheur. Ça doit bien ressembler à ce que j'ai caché dans le fond du cœur. Dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as quand tu dis que t'as rien du tout. T'as pas besoin d'amour, que t'es bien dans ton igloo. Dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as quand tout ce que t'as c'est un monde de fou. Prends ton pic et pis t'appelles, on n'est pas sorti du tout. Ça fait des années, j'ai passé le cap, mais j'ai pas passé mon tour. La terre qui tourne loin, qui l'attrape au moins une fois par jour. J'ai vu la vie en rouge, j'ai été bon étudiant. C'est toujours bien quelque chose que je souhaite toujours vivant. Mais dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as quand tu dis que t'as rien du tout. T'as pas besoin d'amour, que t'es bien dans ton igloo. Ah, dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as. Tout ce que t'as c'est un monde de fou. Prends ton pic et puis t'appelles, on n'est pas sorti du tout. One more time. Dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as quand tu dis que t'as rien du tout. T'as pas besoin d'amour, que t'es bien dans ton igloo. Dis-moi qu'est-ce que t'as quand tout ce que t'as c'est un monde de fou. Prends ton pic et puis t'appelles, on n'est pas sorti du trou. Prends ton pic et puis t'appelles, on n'est pas sorti du trou. Prends ton pic et puis t'appelles, on n'est pas sorti du trou. Well, basically, it's a little bit about that we're not out of the, we should take our shovels out, we're not out of the hole yet. Things not over. Basically, that's what, it's a little bit of a nonsense song too. It's about going around the world and seeing all that's wrong, and you know, we got to roll up our sleeves. That's what that song's about. Okay, well, I'm going to do one more. Just wondering, I should finish up with that. Should I finish up with something? happy songs, some poetic songs, some sing-alongs, some...
Jardin.
What's this?
Jardin.
Jardin, oh, Jardin. Okay, it's going to get loose, isn't it? Okay, well I'll do, since we have a fan here, I'll do this is, okay, I won't do Jardin because the song that she wants me to sing is a song it's an epic song. It's got a lot of verses, a lot of solos and stuff, and I have probably tried it on my own, but I'll do one from here. This is a song called La Complainte du Maréchal Biron, and this song is one of these songs that sang the glories of a hero who wasn't really a hero, apparently. He was one of these guys that wanted to overthrow the king, and so, he was like a Che Guevara type of character, and so songs were written about him, Michel Lalonde. Don't know if he was really a good guy or not, but he was controversial, but the song was banned for years and years, so it eventually dug out of a book, and we found it, and it talks about when Biron came into the city. He wanted to overthrow the king, and the way he did it is he got together with the queen, and I guess that didn't sit too well with the king, so he wound up on the guillotine. And so that is the story about Biron, and of course, before he actually dies, he implores the king to remember when they were valiant combatants in the Holy Land, that he saved his life once. And he says, oh, I don't really remember that. Really, you did that? And so poor Biron ended up on the gallows, so that's the story.